Okay, folks, I'm going to call the meeting to order. As required under the Planning Act, a public meeting is being held prior to the committee making a decision on these applications. And to start things off, I will introduce the Committee of Adjustment. And I'm Mr. Robertson, and we've got Mr. Strangway, we've got Ms. Richardson, we've got Ms. Archer, and we've got Mr. Erickson. All right, and staff in person, we have the Manager of Planning, Ms. Berry. We have Planner 2, Ms. Evans. We have Mr. Lahe, the Secretary-Treasurer, and Ms. Crockford, our Recording Secretary. And remotely, I'm advised we have Mr. McKinnon, who I believe is sitting in for the Chief Building Official, so good stuff. All right. All right, so moving right along. The agenda. I want to amend the agenda to bring D20-2023-078 up to the beginning. We've got Mr. Rowe is here, and there's no reason for him to be sitting through the entire meeting. So we'll deal with his first. So I'd like a motion to put the agenda on the floor as amended. Mr. Erickson, Mr. Strangway. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? All right, being none. The minutes of the last meeting. Any comments or questions on those minutes prior to me asking for a motion? All right, can I get a motion then to put it on? Ms. Archer, do I have a seconder? Mr. Richardson? No further comments or questions? All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Now, for the benefit of those here or online, the committee will hear comments, gather information, and may ask questions to clarify statements made. The committee may ask and answer questions or redirect questions to the appropriate person. Please note that any information or comments given to the committee during this meeting, they are considered evidence. We will first hear from staff, then the applicant or his or her agent. We will then hear from any person in support of or from those who have questions, concerns, or are opposed to the application. Finally, the applicant or his or her agent will have an opportunity to respond to any of the statements made to the committee. And having said all that, we're dealing with, where am I here? File number D20-2023-078, and this is the Geographic Township of Finland. Sevens, you got a busy day ahead of you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Before we move into the evaluation of this application, I'll first speak to the reliefs that were circulated and additional reliefs that were later identified as being required. The circulation of the application included the required reliefs for the water setback and the reduced side yard setback for the proposed dwelling. Since the application was circulated, the review of the application has progressed, and it was determined that the existing attached deck is to remain in the same location on the property, despite the dwelling being completely demolished otherwise.
Ms. Evans, let me stop you for 1 second. There may be folks out there that are listening and wonder, the address we're looking at is 1437 Killarney Bay Road. I think I missed that, so.
As such, the existing deck contributes to the calculation of lot coverage, and relief is required from the maximum lot coverage in order to permit the new larger dwelling. Additionally, the existing reduced water setback of the deck requires relief in addition to the reduced water setback of the proposed dwelling. As a result of including the attached deck in the lot coverage calculation, the proposed lot coverage is 32% of the lot area, the permitted lot coverage being 30%. Additionally, the deck's existing reduced water setback is 9 meters. All existing and proposed structures, including the proposed footprint of the dwelling, and specifically the existing attached deck, which is to remain as is, are depicted on the sketch that was circulated to the public and agencies. As such, staff are of the opinion that the application can proceed with the lot coverage relief and the relief for the reduced water setback of the deck being added without the need to recirculate the application. But I will turn this matter over to committee to determine how you would like to proceed.
All right, committee. I suppose what I need is just a show of hands. Are you content to proceed with this as is without the further advertisement? All right, it looks like that carried. Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Thank you. The subject property is designated waterfront under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned limited service residential under the Township of Fenland zoning bylaw 12-95. The subject property is within an established residential neighborhood located on the southeastern shore of Balsam Lake. It is rectangular in shape and is a waterfront lot. The property currently contains a one-story single detached dwelling constructed in 1930, an attached deck, a detached garage, and a boathouse. The proposal is to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new two-story dwelling with a larger footprint. A portion of the footprint will remain the same as what exists today, with the expansion occurring towards the south and east lot lines. The existing waterside deck will remain as it is today. Relief is required from section 15.2.1.3b2 of the bylaw, which requires a minimum interior side yard setback of 3 meters on one side and 2 meters on the other side for a two-story dwelling. The existing setback from the north lot line is 4.6 meters and is proposed to remain the same, and the proposed setback from the south lot line is 2.1 meters. Relief is required from section 15.2.1.3e of the bylaw, which requires a minimum water setback of 15 meters. The existing non-complying setback of 11 meters for the dwelling is proposed to remain unchanged, and the existing non-complying setback of 9 meters for the attached deck is proposed to remain unchanged. Relief is also required from section 15.2.1.4 of the bylaw, which permits a maximum lot coverage of 30% of the lot area. The proposed lot coverage is 32%. It can be expected that over time, owners may improve their property, resulting in its highest and best use. The new larger dwelling will better accommodate the property owners as well as family and friends, as the existing dwelling is approximately 86.7 square meters in size, and the proposed dwelling is to have a ground floor area of 109.4 square meters and a gross floor area of 187.4 square meters. Looking to the official plan, low-density residential uses and buildings and structures accessory to residential uses are permitted in the waterfront designation, with performance and siting criteria being implemented through the zoning bylaw. The official plan establishes water setback policies to protect development from erosion hazards and protect and enhance the ecological function of the water body. The existing dwelling is set back 11 meters from the water, and the proposed dwelling will maintain this setback with no further encroachment proposed. The existing setback of the attached deck is 9 meters, and the deck is proposed to remain as is. And as such, it is not anticipated that the new dwelling or the existing attached deck will impact the existing shoreline conditions. This photo shows the front of the property as viewed from the road. A single detached dwelling as well as accessory structures are permitted within the limited service residential zone. The proposal complies with all provisions of the bylaw, with the exception of the minimum interior side yard setback, the minimum water setback, and maximum lot coverage. These photos show the existing interior side yard setback on the south side of the dwelling. The photo on the left was taken from the road side of the property, and the photo on the right was taken from the water side. The footprint of the new dwelling will be slightly closer to the side lot line than this existing bump out that can be seen in the photo, as it currently has a setback of 2.6 meters and the proposed setback is 2.1 meters. The proposed interior yard setback will continue to allow for unimpeded access between the front and rear yards, as well as space to complete any building maintenance along the south wall of the dwelling. It is not anticipated that this additional encroachment will result in any adverse massing, privacy, or drainage impacts. The photo on the left shows the water side of the dwelling with the attached deck, and the photo on the right shows the rear or water yard. The existing attached deck is to remain as is, and its existing setback will not be altered. Additionally, the new proposed dwelling will maintain the same setback as the existing dwelling to the water. It is not anticipated that the proposal's reduced water setback will negatively impact infiltration or alter the existing shoreline conditions. The maximum lot coverage provision controls built form to manage massing, ensures a sufficient degree of landscaped open space is maintained, and controls more technical aspects of development such as drainage. Adequate outdoor amenity space will be maintained, and the proposed increased lot coverage is not anticipated to impact drainage. There are no anticipated impacts on environmental features, neighboring properties, or the function of the right-of-way. Comments were received from the supervisor of Part 8 sewage systems stating that there are no concerns with the minor variance application as it relates to private on-site sewage disposal. Comments were received from Kawartha Region Conservation Authority stating they have no concerns with the approval of the minor variance and that a permit will be required from their office. No comments of concern were raised by any of the other circulated agencies, and no comments were received from members of the public. Based on the contents of the report, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Questions or comments with respect to the planner? All right. This is the applicant here. Do you wish to speak to the application? And Mr. Boer?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for the report. Much appreciated. If there's any additional questions, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, I think it's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you for that, sir. Are there any further questions of the planner? All right. Thank you for that. All right, committee. Before we get to the original motion with respect to the application, I think I want to clean up the initial vote we had with respect to the minor issue that was brought up by Ms. Evans. So I'm going to suggest this motion, and then we'll go to the application. And I'll read it to you. And due to an initial vote at the commencement of the meeting, the committee agreed to proceed with the application without further advertising of the minor issue raised by the planner. And that way, that cleans that up nice. So can I get a motion to put that, Mr. Strangway? Ms. Richardson, further comments or questions? All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. All right, now back to the application. Committee, what are your wishes? Mr. Strangway, Ms. Richardson?
Yes, as recommended by staff.
All right. Do I have any further comments or questions? All right. Oh, sorry.
Did I miss asking the people out there?
Oh, I better get to that. You're right. Must be green. Yeah. Right. Is there anyone, yes, anyone online wishing to speak in support of this application, in support of the application? Anyone online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition to the application? I think we become a little bit complacent because very, very few of them ever show up. But anyway, thank you, Ms. Archer. I appreciate that. All right. I believe I asked for a vote on that, so we got that through. Mr. Rowe, you weren't interested in speaking, I don't think. Thank you. Your application is approved, sir. All those in favor of the motion on the floor then? That passed. Thank you. File number D20-2023-072, and this is 80 Wakeford Road, Geographic Township, Maripasa. Ms. Evans, go ahead.
Thank you. Before we proceed with the review of the minor variance, I would like to point out a change that needs to be made to condition 4 of the report, as the original condition 4 is to be replaced. The new language has been printed and provided to committee. The purpose of the condition is to ensure that one of the existing sheds is removed, and when the report was written, the timing of this condition was tied to the timing of the first building inspection and confirmation of the shed being removed, being received from the building inspector. After the writing of the report, the Building and Septic Division's plans examiner provided that conditions that are not applicable to the Ontario Building Code are not to be tied to building permits or inspector confirmation. As such, the condition is to be reworded to say that the shed identified in Appendix E be removed within a period of 24 months after the date of the notice of decision. This condition will be considered fulfilled upon the owner providing photographic evidence that the shed has been removed to the Secretary Treasurer. The subject property is designated waterfront under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned limited service residential under the Township of Mariposa zoning bylaw 94-07. The subject property is in an established residential neighborhood located on the northern shore of Scugog Lake on Washburn Island. The property is irregular in shape and is a waterfront lot. The existing structures are a single detached dwelling constructed in 1947, a detached garage, a boathouse, and 2 sheds. The proposal is to demolish the existing 1-story dwelling and its attached deck and construct a new, larger dwelling with a walkout basement and an attached garage. A new attached deck will also be constructed on the water side of the dwelling. One of the existing sheds and the detached garage are to be removed. The removal of the detached garage is necessary in order to construct the new dwelling in its proposed location, and the requirement for the removal of the shed is reflected in Condition 4 of the report. Relief is required from Section 15.2.1.3a of the bylaw, which requires a minimum front yard setback of 7.5 meters. The proposed setback is 5.6 meters. Relief is also required from Section 15.2.1.4 of the bylaw, which requires a minimum water setback of 30 meters. The proposed setback is 18.3 meters. And as noted in the Condition 4, the shed identified in Appendix E is to be removed, and here we can see it shown in that red box. So that shed is to be removed as per Condition 4. It can be expected that over time, owners may improve their property, resulting in its highest and best use. The existing dwelling is seasonal, and the property owners plan to use the proposed dwelling as their permanent residence in the future. The new dwelling will provide additional living space, as the existing dwelling is approximately 71.5 square meters in size, and the proposed dwelling is to have a ground floor area of 155.3 square meters and a gross floor area of 310.7 square meters. The proposal will not be out of character, as the area contains a mixture of 1- and 2-story single detached dwellings. Looking to the official plan, low-density residential uses and buildings and structures accessory to residential uses are permitted in the waterfront designation, with performance and siting criteria being implemented through the zoning bylaw. The official plan establishes water setback policies to protect development from erosion hazards and protect and enhance the ecological function of the water body. The proposal improves upon the existing water setback and expands the shoreline buffer, as the new dwelling will be located farther away from the water than what exists today. And as such, no negative impacts to the existing shoreline conditions are anticipated. Looking to the zoning bylaw, a single detached dwelling and accessory structures are permitted within the limited service residential zone. The proposal complies with all provisions of the bylaw, with the exception of the minimum front yard setback and the minimum water setback. The photo on the left was taken from the road looking into the property along the front lot line. The photo on the right was taken from in front of the existing dwelling looking back towards the front lot line and the road. Between the front lot line of the subject property and the traveled portion of the road, there is a 6.75 meter wide grass boulevard, and this separation, in addition to the proposed 5.6 meter setback, will provide adequate spatial separation between the proposed dwelling and the road. As such, it is not anticipated that the proposed front yard setback of the new dwelling will impact the function of the roadway, maintenance, or sightlines. Additionally, though the new dwelling will be closer to the front lot line than the existing dwelling, the proposed development will result in an overall front yard setback improvement, as the existing garage, which can be seen in the photo on the left here, currently has a 0 meter setback from the front lot line, and that garage is to be removed in order to facilitate the new construction. The photo on the left shows the rear of the existing dwelling, and the photo on the right shows the existing setback between the attached deck and the water. The proposed dwelling is to be set back 22.3 meters from the water, and the proposed covered deck is to be set back 18.3 meters from the water. This proposal will result in an improved water setback, as the existing attached deck is approximately 12 meters from the water. It is not anticipated that the proposed water setback will negatively impact infiltration or alter the existing shoreline conditions. Additionally, for comparative purposes, the minimum water setback in the majority of the city's other rural zoning bylaws is 15 meters, which this proposal exceeds. There are no anticipated impacts on environmental features, neighboring properties, or the function of the right-of-way. Comments were received from the supervisor of Part 8 sewage system stating that there are concerns that the proposed sewage system may not be able to be accommodated in the space allocated on the site plan. As such, Condition 3 has been included to ensure approval under the Ontario Building Code pertaining to private sanitary waste disposal is obtained. Comments were received from Kawartha Region Conservation Authority stating that they have no concerns with the approval of the minor variance and that a permit will be required from their office. No comments of concern were raised by any of the other circulated agencies, and no comments were received from members of the public. Based on the contents of the report, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Questions of the planner? Mr. Strangway, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick question. I noticed the shed that's to be removed is exceedingly small. What's the reason we're asking that shed be removed?
Through the chair, under this zoning bylaw, you are allowed to have 2 accessory structures. So in order to come into compliance with that, the shed will be removed, resulting in just 1 shed and then the boathouse being on the property.
Follow up, Mr. Strangway.
Again, through the chair, it is a small shed, but based on the definition of a structure, it is still considered a structure despite its small size.
Okay. Yeah, the reason I ask, I was just wondering, a shed of that size, you would not need a building permit for it. So, not that I'm suggesting for a minute that the owner would do it, but is there anything to prevent somebody from saying, okay, I'd like another small shed, and as long as it's under 108 square feet for erecting another shed?
Ms. Evans?
Through the chair, thank you. Despite a building permit not being required, there is a responsibility on the property owner to ensure all structures comply with the zoning bylaw. So while the construction might not be caught through the building permit process, it could be caught through other methods or avenues such as municipal law enforcement being brought in if a neighbor perhaps was concerned about the number of accessory structures on the property. But yeah, despite its size, it still does need to comply with the zoning bylaw and is considered a structure.
Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it.
Actually, very well said, Ms. Evans, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Not to belabor the point, but what if somebody got a children's play structure, a solid plastic type thing of the same shape and size? Because it really does look like a children's structure.
Ms. Evans?
Through the chair, there is a definition of what a structure is, and it does involve having a fixed location on the ground or being fixed to something that has a fixed location on the ground. So based on the definition of what a building is, what a structure is, it would really depend on what this play structure was to look like in terms of whether it would be counted as an accessory structure or not.
Okay. Anything further? Ms. Richardson?
Through you, I'm just curious as to why the timeline for getting a building permit and getting a permit for the sewage or septic is the same frame, because would they not require to have the septic in place prior to being issued a building permit?
Through the chair, I'll defer that question to the plans examiner.
The plans examiner? Is that Mr. McKinnon? Okay, are you there, sir? Mr. McKinnon, go ahead. Did you hear the question?
Yes, through you, your chair, those permits could be issued at the same time. The applications could be applied for and issued at the same time. That's not an issue.
Ms. Richardson, follow up? No, you're okay?
That's perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. McKinnon, for that. All right. Is the applicant online or here? Does the applicant wish to speak to the application? All right. Is there anyone online wishing to speak in support of this application? In support of this application? Anyone online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition to the application? Somebody figured it was a slam dunk, I guess. All right, committee, where are we? And don't forget, it will be as amended if we want to make that motion. Ms. Archer? Do I have a seconder? Mr. Erickson? Any further comments or questions with the amended motion on the floor? All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. All right. All right, we're now dealing with, as soon as I get my glasses, file number D20-2023-073, and this is 27 Leaside Street, Geographic Township of Fenland. Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Thank you. The subject property is designated waterfront under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned rural residential type 3 under the Township of Fenland zoning bylaw 12-95. The subject property is within an established residential neighborhood located on the southeastern shore of Balsam Lake. The property is irregular in shape and is a waterfront lot. The existing structures on the property are a single detached dwelling constructed in 1982, a detached garage, a shed, a detached waterfront deck or platform, and an additional residential unit or ARU, which is currently under construction. A minor variance was granted in March of 2023 to permit the ARU to be located in the front yard. The proposal is to construct a boathouse. Relief is required from section 3.1.3.1 of the bylaw, which permits a maximum lot coverage for accessory structures of 8% of the lot area to a maximum of 225 square meters. The resulting lot coverage is 278.4 square meters, or 5.2% of the lot area. Relief is also required from section 3.1.3.3 of the bylaw, which permits a maximum of 3 accessory structures on a lot in any class of residential zone. The proposed boathouse constitutes the 5th accessory structure on the lot. As there is not currently a boathouse on the property, the proposal will provide a convenient boat storage option. As there are other boathouses in the area, the proposal is in keeping with the existing built form along the shoreline. Looking to the official plan, low-density residential uses and buildings and structures accessory to residential uses are permitted in the waterfront designation, with performance and siting criteria being implemented through the zoning bylaw. The official plan establishes water setback policies to protect development and protect and enhance the ecological function of the water body. This policy states that a boathouse is permitted within this setback. Looking to the zoning bylaw, a single detached dwelling and accessory structures are permitted within the rural residential type 3 zone. The proposal complies with all provisions of the bylaw with the exception of the maximum lot coverage for accessory structures and the maximum number of accessory structures. These photos show two of the existing accessory structures on the property, being the existing shed and then the waterfront deck or platform. And here we have the ARU as well as the detached garage. These photos were taken from two different angles, showing the location of the proposed boathouse. The bylaw's provision for managing total lot coverage for accessory structures uses both a percentage of lot area and a maximum number of square meters. Though the total ground floor area of the existing and proposed accessory structures exceeds the maximum of 225 square meters by 53.4 square meters, the portion of the lot covered by accessory structures is only 5.2%. The proposed lot coverage complies with the maximum percentage of the lot that can be covered by accessory structures, and the increased square footage is not anticipated to negatively impact the character of the area. For comparative purposes, other rural residential zoning bylaws regulate coverage using only a percentage, on average ranging from 8 to 10% of the lot area. The dispersed arrangement of the accessory structures on the property and the higher elevation of the dwelling, which is located at the top of a hill, ensure the residential use remains visually predominant despite the increased accessory structure number and lot coverage. There are no anticipated impacts on environmental features, neighboring properties, or the function of the right-of-way. Comments were received from Kawartha Region Conservation Authority stating that they have no concern with the approval of the minor variance and that a permit will be required from their office. No comments of concern were raised by any of the other circulated agencies, and no comments were received from members of the public. Based on the contents of the report, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
And thank you. Are there any questions of the planner? Go ahead, Mr. Strangway.
Excuse me, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to go back to the previous one. We just asked for people to remove a very small shed, but here we're approving, is it 5 buildings on the lot? Can you explain to me why, it is permitted in this case, but not the last case?
Thank you. Through the chair. So for the previous file, being 80 Wakeford, the owner wanted to remove that second shed. It was part of his proposal. If you look at the sketch, it wasn't on there as part of his proposed development. So to ensure that the development proceeded in compliance with the zoning bylaw, we added the condition that that shed be removed. If the owner had wanted to keep that shed and therefore have 3 accessory structures when 2 are permitted, we would have done another relief to recognize that shed. But since he wanted to remove it anyway, we just included the condition to make sure everything was covered. But in this case, there's no proposal to remove any of these structures, so we are taking that for relief, so for number and for maximum lot coverage.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Catherine.
Further questions of the planner? Ms. Evans, your responses have been very detailed and thorough, so thank you very much for that. It doesn't leave a whole lot of question when you're finished. Thank you. Nothing further of the planner. Is the applicant here? Mr. DeBoer, do you wish to speak to it?
Thanks again, committee, and again, thank you to planning staff. Again, it speaks to itself. Unfortunately, we couldn't capture this in the original variance request when we did the ARU a couple of months ago. The client obviously changed his mind and wanted to further the development of his property to maximize the use. So again, patience on that one, and I thank you for that. But other than that, if there's any questions, concerns, be more than happy to answer them.
All right, and thank you for that, sir. Are there any questions of the applicant? Mr. Boer? All right, being none, thank you, sir. All right. Is there anyone online wishing to speak in support of this application? Support of the application? Anyone online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition to the application? Being none, committee. Ms. Richardson?
It's recommended by staff.
All right, seconded by Mr. Strangway. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. All right, moving right along. We're now dealing with D20-2023-074, and this is 19 Ken Hill Beach Road, Geographic Township of Earlham. Again, Ms. Evans, go ahead.
Thank you. The subject property is designated waterfront under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned Residential 1 Exception 27 under the Township of Earlham zoning bylaw 6-87. The subject lot is within an established residential neighborhood located on the southern shore of Sturgeon Lake. 19 Ken Hill Beach Road is a waterfront lot, and the property owners also own a back lot across the road, which is the site of the proposed garage. The waterfront portion of the property contains a single detached dwelling constructed in 2022, a detached garage, and a boathouse. The back lot contains a shed. The proposal is to construct a detached garage on the back lot, which will provide additional storage and parking. Several other backlots in the area contain garages, and as such, this proposal is in keeping with the existing built form in the area. Relief is required from Section 8.3.27.3C of the bylaw, which requires a minimum front yard setback of 12 meters, plus an additional 10 meters from the center line of the road allowance required by Section 5.18.3 of the bylaw. The proposed setback is 2 meters from the front lot line and 12 meters from the center line of the road allowance. The purpose of the proposed reduced front yard setback is to locate the garage in a portion of the lot that is already cleared in order to avoid the removal of trees from the mature forested area at the rear of the property. So this photo shows the cleared area where the garage is proposed and the forested area which extends towards the rear of the property. Looking to the official plan, low-density residential uses and buildings and structures accessory to residential uses are permitted in the waterfront designation, with performance and siting criteria being implemented through the zoning bylaw. The Residential 1 Exception 27 zone permits accessory uses to the shoreline lots across the road. The zone also establishes unique provisions for accessory structures, including how to apply front lot line setback, lot coverage, and maximum number of accessory structures. The proposal complies with all provisions of the bylaw, with the exception of the minimum front yard setback. In addition to the required 12-meter setback from the front lot line, the general provisions section of the bylaw contains provisions establishing minimum setbacks from the center of a road allowance, being 10 meters from the center line for a local road, such as Ken Hill Beach Road. The street center line setback appears to have been written on the premise that should a road allowance be of a non-standard width for its classification, built form will be adequately set back from it in the event the municipality decided to take a road widening, which would be unlikely in this vicinity given the reduced lot sizes that would occur as a result, and due to the fact that there are existing buildings and structures within the street centerline setback area. The photo on the left here was taken from the road looking towards the lot, and the photo on the right was taken with me standing on the lot looking towards the front lot line. In addition to the proposed 2-meter setback from the front lot line, there is an approximately 5.7-meter wide grassy boulevard which separates the property from the traveled portion of the road allowance, adding visual and physical separation between the proposed garage and the road. Additionally, there is a mature cedar hedge which abuts the front lot line, which would limit the portion of the garage that is visible from the road, if any at all. The proposed entrance to the garage is on the east wall, so vehicles will not be exiting the garage and immediately entering the traveled portion of the road allowance. It is not anticipated that the garage will result in impacts to sightlines or the traveled portion of the road with respect to traffic or road maintenance. As seen in this photo, the garage is to be located on a back lot, which is similar to the existing built form in the area. We can see some garages and sheds located on back lots in this photo. And this includes this garage, which is adjacent to the proposed garage, having a very similar setback. So the yellow rectangle on the sketch represents the location of the garage in this photo, which would be adjacent to the proposed garage, which would be located just behind that cedar hedge. There are no anticipated impacts on environmental features, neighboring properties, or the function of the right-of-way. Comments were received from Kawartha Region Conservation Authority stating that they have no concern with the approval of the minor variance and that a permit will be required from their office. No comments of concern were raised by any of the circulated agencies, and no comments were received from members of the public. Based on the contents of the report, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
Thank you. I always wonder about those comments where they say no concerns, but a permit's required. Very interesting. All right. Are there any questions of the planner? Yes, Ms. Archer, go ahead.
Through you, please, to the planner. I'm kind of stuck on accessory buildings today. It says the back lot contains a shed. Is it allowed to remain?
Through the chair, yes. Under the R1 exception 27 zone, 2 accessory structures are permitted.
Anything further with the planner? Mr. DeBoer, you're a busy fellow as well today.
Thank you, through the chair, to the committee. Again, this is a very unique property, having worked on Kent Hill Beach half a dozen times now. Whenever the road was created, it's created towards the water side as opposed to the center of the right-of-way. As Catherine alluded to, this particular, the hedge that we're looking at in front of the property is the actual right-of-way limit. My client is enjoying the trees, the privacy. There's many hedges similar to this along the right-of-way. They have a second hedge in behind, and the intent was to literally put the garage in between the 2 hedgerows without removing any vegetation. We've come up with a design that works with their needs and requirements, and therefore this relief has been sought today. Alternatively, there is enough land mass to do this. However, we'd be removing some 30 or 40, 50 plus year old cedar trees, which I don't think are necessary to be removed at this point, to facilitate a simple garage. So with that, we're asking for the minor variance, and if there's any concerns, questions, be more than happy to answer them.
Are there any questions of Mr. DeBoer? All right, being none, your easy day, sir. All right. Is there anyone online wishing to speak in support of this application? In support of this application? Anyone online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition to the application? Committee, where are we? Mr. Erickson?
Ask a question of the planner.
Go ahead.
With these back lots, does the planning department not encourage people to build actual year-round structures on them as a residence? I go through these areas and I think, what a waste of property you got the cottage house, let's say year-round residence on one side of the road, and then all these people are building garages on the other side of the road. I just think it's a waste of land. Have they looked into possibly encouraging the development of the back lots into actual residential properties?
You sure you're not a member of the provincial government?
Not yet. Not yet.
Respond to that, please.
Through the chair, the development of another unit on these backlots wouldn't be a hard no. An ARU could be an option depending on whether the property was eligible. So could it be serviced by private services? Are we on a road that's assumed and maintained by the municipality? In the case of this property, it did go through the rezoning to become R1 Exception 27, which specifically prohibits the construction or development of a dwelling. Only accessory uses and then a neighborhood park or parkette are permitted.
Okay. Right, a lot of these areas when you drive through, there's residences on both sides of the street with the backlots. So, yeah, it depends on the area, I guess. Anything further of the planner? No? All right, I need a motion. Ms. Archer, do I have a seconder? Mr. Erickson? Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, moving right along, we're now dealing with file number D20-2023-075, and this is 72 Mason Lane, Geographic Township of Somerville. Ms. Evans, you are on again.
Thank you. The subject property is designated waterfront under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned limited service residential under the Township of Somerville zoning bylaw 78-45. The subject property is located in an established residential neighborhood located on the eastern shore of Balsam Lake. It is rectangular in shape and is a waterfront lot. The existing structures on the property are a single detached dwelling constructed in 2021, a boathouse, and a detached garage, which is currently under construction. A minor variance was granted in June of 2023 to permit a reduced front yard setback for the detached garage. The proposal is to demolish the existing boathouse and construct a new boathouse with a larger footprint. Relief is required from Section 18.1.3A of the bylaw, which permits a maximum lot coverage for accessory structures of 8% of the lot area to a maximum of 225 square meters. The resulting lot coverage is 80.7 square meters, being 9.8% of the lot area. The existing boathouse is 22.96 square meters in size, and the new boathouse is to be 44.5 square meters in size. The larger boathouse will have more space for watercraft storage. Similarly sized boathouses can be found on the neighboring properties in the area. Looking to the official plan, low-density residential uses and buildings and structures accessory to residential uses are permitted in the waterfront designation, with performance and siting criteria being implemented through the zoning bylaw. The official plan establishes water setback policies to protect development and protect and enhance the ecological function of the water body. This policy states that a boathouse is permitted within this water setback. These photos show the existing boathouse. Looking to the official plan, or the zoning bylaw rather, a single detached dwelling and accessory structures are permitted within the limited service residential zone. The proposal complies with all provisions of the bylaw, with the exception of the maximum lot coverage for accessory structures. As the proposed boathouse is to replace the existing boathouse, the proposal will not result in an increased number of accessory structures on the property. On the slide are the two accessory structures proposed for the property, the first being the detached garage and the second being the proposed boathouse. The proposed boathouse will improve the interior side yard setback, as the existing boathouse is set back 0 meters from the east lot line, and the new boathouse will be set back 1.2 meters, which is compliant with the zoning bylaw. Based on the size of the property and the permitted lot coverage percentage, the permitted lot coverage for accessory structures is 66.2 square meters. Therefore, the resulting lot coverage, which includes the detached garage and the proposed boathouse, exceeds what is permitted by 14.5 square meters. It is not anticipated that this coverage will impact the residential character of the property. Also, as the detached garage and proposed boathouse are located on opposite sides of the dwelling, when viewing the property from the road or the water, only one of the two accessory structures will be visible, ensuring the dwelling remains visually predominant. As seen in these photos, several boathouses exist in the immediate vicinity, which range in size and height with several different roof styles. There are no anticipated impacts on environmental features, neighboring properties, or the function of the right-of-way. Comments were received from Kawartha Region Conservation Authority stating they have no concern with the approval of the minor variance and that a permit will be required from their office. No other comments of concern were raised by any of the circulated agencies. After the writing of the report, comments were received from Roland Herman, resident of 70 Mason Lane, stating concerns regarding the size and height of the boathouse, the proposal having a sloped roof instead of a flat roof, and concerns regarding impact to water views. In response, I can provide that the proposed boathouse complies with the maximum height and minimum side yard setback from the shared lot line between 70 and 72 Mason Lane. The zoning bylaw does not regulate the shape of a roof and does not prohibit boathouses from having sloped roofs. The immediate area contains a variety of boathouses of different heights and with different roof shapes. And though the zoning bylaw may not specifically address view, provisions such as location and maximum height for accessory structures contribute to view maintenance, and this proposal complies with location and height provisions. Based on the contents of the report, staff acknowledges the application meets all four tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Questions of the planner? Ms. Archer?
Through you, please, to the planner. Has Mr. Herman been advised that it's within the height limitations?
Through the chair, yes. I did send an email with the information on the height, but I haven't received a response.
Anything further from committee? All right, being none, Mr. DeBoer, you're on again.
Last one for today, I promise. Again, thank you for the planning department. We had a little bit of back and forth regarding the adjacent neighbor and some concerns with that. I think with the conversation and the documentation provided that we have satisfied that concern. Save and accept any commentary here this afternoon. But if there's any other concerns, questions, here to answer if necessary.
Are there any questions of Mr. DeBoer? We always enjoy your company, Mr. DeBoer. Not a problem. Thank you. All right. Anyone online wishing to speak in support of this application? Support of this application. Anyone online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition to the application. Committee, one of those days. Mr. Strangway.
As recommended by staff.
All right, and seconded by Ms. Richardson. All right. Any further comments or questions on the motion on the floor? All those in favor? And that carries. And moving right along, we're now dealing with file number D20-2023-076, and this is 91 Brook Road, Geographic Township of Somerville. Ms. Evans, are you getting tired?
Not yet.
Go ahead.
Thank you. The subject property is designated environmental protection under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned limited service residential floodplain under the Township of Somerville zoning bylaw 78-45. The subject property is located in an established residential neighborhood on the east side of the Burnt River. The property is rectangular in shape and is a waterfront lot, and currently contains a single detached dwelling constructed in 1958, 2 sheds, a tarp storage structure, and a gazebo. The proposal is to construct a detached garage in the front yard. Relief is required from section 18.1.3b of the bylaw, which permits a maximum height for accessory structures of 5 meters. The proposed height is 6.5 meters. Relief is also required from section 18.1.3C of the bylaw, which permits a maximum of 3 accessory structures. The proposed garage constitutes the 5th accessory structure on the lot. The property is designated waterfront, or environmental protection rather, under the City of Kawartha Lake's official plan, which does not permit buildings or structures. However, per policy 34.1, nothing in the official plan or the implementing zoning bylaw prevent the use of any land, building, or structure for a purpose prohibited by the plan if the land, building, or structure was lawfully used for that purpose on the date this plan was adopted by council. The city may recognize the existing use of land in an implementing zoning bylaw. The property is zoned to permit residential uses and accessory structures, and the residential use has been established since at least 1958. Looking to the zoning bylaw, a single detached dwelling as well as accessory structures are permitted within the limited service residential floodplain zone. The proposal complies with all provisions of the bylaw with the exception of the maximum height for accessory structures and the maximum number of accessory structures. The photo on the left shows the existing dwelling, and the drawing on the right shows what the proposed garage is to look like. A detached garage is permitted in the front yard on a property that fronts on a navigable waterway. Additionally, the garage complies with the front and side yard setbacks required in the LSR zone. As the existing dwelling is approximately 8.55 meters in height, there are no anticipated height incompatibilities with the primary residential use, and the dwelling will remain visually predominant. The photo on the left shows the pad of the old garage, which was demolished, and the new garage is to begin approximately at the yellow line. The photo on the right shows the location of the new garage again. The proposed garage will be located adjacent to the existing garage located at 95 Brook Road, which is the white building that can be seen in these photos. So the garage at its proposed height will not result in any negative privacy impacts to the dwelling on the neighboring property. There are also other garages in the area that appear to have increased heights and/or second levels, and as such, the proposal is not out of character with the existing built form. With regard to the proposed number of accessory structures, the existing and proposed structures are dispersed throughout the property, reducing any visual clutter. Additionally, the proposal complies with the maximum lot coverage for accessory structures. As such, it is not anticipated that the proposed number of accessory structures will result in adverse impacts or detract from the residential character of the property. There are no anticipated impacts on environmental features, neighboring properties, or the function of the right-of-way. Comments were received from Kawartha Region Conservation Authority stating that they have no concerns with the approval of the minor variance and that a permit will not be required from their office. No comments of concern were raised by any of the other circulated agencies, and no comments were received from members of the public. Based on the contents of the report, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? Ms. Archer?
You please to the planner, would you please identify the bottom left corner? Is that what they're calling a carport, that yellow building?
Through the chair, that's correct. Sometimes called a tarp storage structure. In this case, on the sketch, it was labeled as a carport.
All right. Mr. Strang?
Further to your comment earlier, I noticed that the applicant will not be required to obtain a permit from Kawartha Conservation. Is that because they don't have jurisdiction up in that area? I'm just wondering about the difference where we often see a permit is required.
Through the chair, yes, that's right. So other properties where a permit is required from Kawartha Conservation, those properties are regulated, at least partially, by the Conservation Authority, whereas here up in Somerville, it's not regulated. So we still circulate them to receive their comments if they have any concerns about the proposal, but a permit is not required as it's not in their regulated area.
Thank you.
Mr. Archer, go ahead.
Continuing on that theme, is the Burnt River not on any conservation area? I mean, holy moly, it's always wet.
If I may too, just as a further of Ms. Archer's, I'm sure we've been told in the past that the City of Kawartha Lakes actually paid Kawartha Conservation a per diem to go up into those areas that are not regulated by them. Would that not have been the case in some of these situations?
Yes, so we do have an extended agreement with KRCA, so while this isn't within their jurisdiction, that's why we circulate that conservation authority for comments. But they do not have regulated area, along the Burnt River here.
Right, so they would have checked out the property. Would have checked out the property, I don't know.
Through the chair, so they did review the minor variance and used their own records to evaluate the property to determine if they have concerns. If they needed to do a site visit, if perhaps their records didn't cover something, then they could do that. But in this case, they were able to make their determination that they didn't have any concerns.
You're absolutely right, though. If there ever was an area that would generate concerns, it's certainly that area. So, yeah, I hear you. Anything further from committee? All right. Is the applicant online? Does the applicant wish to speak to the application? All right. Being none, is there anyone online wishing to speak in support of this application, in support of the application? Anyone online wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Opposition to the application. One of those days, committee. Do I have a move? Mr. Erickson, as printed. Do I have a seconder? Oh, Mr. Strangway. Any further comments or questions with respect to the motion on the floor? All those in favor? I had some concerns there myself. Thank you. All right, moving right along, last but certainly not least, is file number D20-2023-077, and this is 95 Birch Point Road, Geographic Township of Emily. Ms. Evans, please go ahead.
Thank you. The subject property is designated waterfront under the City of Kawartha Lakes official plan and is zoned rural residential type 3 under the Township of Emily zoning bylaw 1996-30. The subject property is within an established residential neighborhood located on the eastern shore of Pigeon Lake. The property is rectangular in shape and does not have frontage on the water. The property currently contains a single detached dwelling constructed in 1995, an above-ground pool with a deck. The proposal is to construct a detached garage in the front yard. Relief is required from section 3.1.2.1 of the bylaw, which permits accessory structures in the interior side or rear yard. The garage is proposed to be located in the front yard. Relief is also required from section 3.1.3.2 of the bylaw, which permits a maximum height for accessory structures of 5 meters. The proposed height is 6.5 meters. In addition to providing storage space needed for a larger family and to eliminate the need for the continued renting of a commercial storage unit, the second level of the garage will provide safer access to the dwelling. As seen in these photos here, there is a significant difference in grade between the road and the dwelling, as the dwelling is located at the top of a hill. So the photo on the right was taken from the bottom of the driveway, illustrating its steep slope up to the house. And the photo on the left shows the level parking area and then the dwelling. You can also see the stairs. So from that parking area, a series of staircases and platforms are required to access the dwelling. And these stairs are difficult to maintain in the winter months, resulting in dangerous conditions and a risk of accidents and injuries. The proposed garage will have an internal staircase, allowing users to safely access the upper portion of the lot closer to where the dwelling is located. Looking to the official plan, low-density residential uses and buildings and structures accessory to residential uses are permitted in the waterfront designation, with performance and siting criteria being implemented through the zoning bylaw. As per policy 20.3.10, provisions such as building and structure height limits are implemented to ensure buildings and structures do not exceed the height of the tree canopy or break the skyline horizon. The proposed garage will not exceed the height of the tree canopy. The subject property is designated waterfront, but it is considered a back lot as it is not directly on the water. As such, the visibility of the proposed garage from the water would be minimal. Looking to the zoning bylaw, a single detached dwelling and accessory structures are permitted within the rural residential type 3 zone. The proposal complies with all provisions of the bylaw, with the exception of accessory structure yard location and maximum height. Here we have the applicant's drawing showing the property from a side front view perspective, with the dwelling at the highest grade and the garage, the proposed garage, down below. The photo on the left here shows the proposed location of the garage, with the garage starting approximately where that basketball net is located, just here. And the photo on the right was taken from the front porch of the dwelling, looking down towards the proposed garage location, as well as the existing garage on the neighboring property. As the property's steep slope limits the amount of usable amenity space in the front yard, the proposed garage preserves the property's rear yard amenity space. There are other properties in the area, including the neighboring property to the west with garages in the front yard, so the proposal will be in keeping with the existing built form in the neighborhood. As the dwelling is at the highest grade on the property, the garage will remain visually subordinate. Additionally, the proposed garage will be located adjacent to the existing garage located at 97 Birch Point Drive, and as such, the garage at its proposed height will not result in any negative privacy impacts to the dwelling on the neighboring property. There are no anticipated impacts on environmental features, neighboring properties, or the function of the right-of-way. Comments were received from Kawartha Region Conservation Authority stating they have no concerns with the approval of the minor variance and that a permit will be required from their office, as well as a Section 59 notice from the risk management official. The Section 59 notice is required because the subject property is located within the Wellhead Protection Area B for the Birch Point Municipal Drinking Water System. All Planning Act applications within these vulnerable areas must be reviewed by the risk management official, and a Section 59 notice must be issued. The purpose of this review is to ensure that the development does not create a threat to the quality or quantity of water in the municipal drinking water system. And condition number 3 has been included to reflect this requirement. No comments of concern were raised by any of the other circulated agencies. Comments were received from the owner of 97 Birch Point Drive, stating concerns regarding property value, sightlines, the garage being an eyesore, privacy concerns, and concerns regarding other work and activity that has previously occurred at the subject property. In response, I can say privacy impacts are not anticipated, as the proposed garage is not to contain living space and will be constructed adjacent to the existing garage at 97 Birch Point Drive, not the dwelling. The proposed garage complies with the minimum front yard setback, and as such is not anticipated that the garage will impact sightlines from a traffic perspective. Any sightlines to the water that could be impacted would be views of the water from neighboring non-waterfront properties that require looking through the subject property to see the water. Based on the contents of the report, staff acknowledges the application meets all 4 tests of a minor variance and respectfully recommends approval of the application subject to the conditions identified within the report. Thank you.
Committee, questions of the planner? Yes, Ms. Richardson, go ahead.
Through you. I know that the comments we received from Mr. Lauren do not affect
Sandra, can you get a wee bit closer to that mic, please? Yeah.
I know that the comments we received from Peter Lauerhand, however you say his name, do not affect our decision on this. I would hope that the building division would be looking into the concerns about putting a pool on a septic bed, etc.
Through the chair, the supervisor of Part 8 sewage systems did review the proposal from this perspective of the garage. So in terms of the location of the septic system, they would be aware of it if this did drum up any concerns on their end.
A follow-up, Ms. Richardson?
I know it has absolutely nothing to do with what we are dealing with, but it is a concern if a pool was placed on a septic when it is not allowed.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I'm just curious. So they had no comments with respect to that. They were okay with it?
They were reviewing it for the purposes of reviewing the minor variance for the garage. Now, any structure would have required a building permit. So whether it is on the septic system, I can't confirm that, but a pool, an above-ground pool, I believe would require a building permit from the Building and Septic Division.
Okay. Further questions of the planner? Mr. Erickson, go ahead.
Through the chair, could you put the site plan back up? Yeah. On the north side, that's the stairway up to the house currently, which is on the left side of the... Yeah. If you go back to the picture, it shows that wooden structure going up there. So that's the existing outside staircase. It says the proposed garage will have an internal staircase. Now, if you go back to the sketch, so they are being permitted to build a tunnel from above grade, up from the garage up to the front of the house?
Through the chair, is that in reference to here?
Yep.
So that's not a tunnel. It would be other stairs. So if I go back to the photos, there's another staircase that connects here. So if you're starting at this parking level to get up to the dwelling, you can either go up here, there's a platform, more stairs to get to the front porch, and then you're at the front door. Or you can navigate the grassy area. There is a stone walkway here that connects to another set of stairs going up to this platform, more stairs, and then the dwelling. So while the garage won't get you all the way to the house, it will help to avoid all of these staircases and platforms to get you closer to this staircase to get you up to the house.
Okay.
All right. Anything further? Ms. Archer?
Just having a little bit of trouble picturing in my mind, the garage, are they going to be taking out more of the fill at the back or the hill at the back? Or is there enough room for it to be on that property that we see at the bottom of the left picture?
Through the chair, if the applicant is online, I'll defer that question to them. I believe some of this fill would need to be removed in order to locate the garage in the proposed location, but I'll have the applicant confirm that for us.
Good afternoon.
No, just a minute. I'll get to you, ma'am. Anything further of the planner? Yes, Ms. Richardson.
Through you, so how many parking places will be lost with the construction of the garage?
Through the chair, I don't believe any parking spaces will be lost, as I believe the garage will be starting in this area. So there'll be parking in the garage and then what remains in this parking area. I don't know if they park in the driveway. I definitely wouldn't do it without your emergency brake on because it was steep.
Again, maybe we could just have that for the, see what the, anything further of the planner? All right, being none. Yes, ma'am, you are? And your name is?
Jessica Harvey.
All right, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay?
And yes, go ahead.
So I heard two questions come my way. Is this when I can answer them?
Absolutely, go ahead.
So first, I just really appreciate that the planning team came out physically to our location, because it is very steep driveway to a flat pad and then like a bunch of different stairs up to the house. So the goal with the garage is two things. It actually doesn't, it adds 2 parking spots and storage, and makes our stairway into the house, I wish I knew at the top of my head, but much shorter, so that it's a lot safer to get into the house. You'd be able to walk up to this second set of stairs that go towards the right when you're looking at the image. And what was the other question?
All right. Who wishes to respond? All right, Ms. Richardson.
I'd inquired as to, would you be losing any parking spaces?
So this is the really challenging thing about where the house is. It's a hard question to ask. So in the winter, even our road alone has parking issues. So we would be able, if you can see that basketball net, my goal is to be able to drive straight in, and that you'd be able to park in that area, hopefully with more room on the pad, so that I won't be losing any parking spaces. It's very limited, especially when snow comes in. You can't even turn around on that pad.
All right, thank you. And there may be another one, Ms. Archer?
I was just quizzing the height of the garage. Is it going to be starting on what you're calling the pad, and like you're going to have to remove some of the area to the right of the land, the grass there?
Yes. So it is quite steep in that area. I'm not an engineer, but they're going to have to dig out some, like a retaining wall area, in order to be able to build in that space.
Well, the height of the building is not going to be from the house. Isn't going to all be above ground. A lot of it will be behind the retaining wall.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's where it's missed. Like, it's important to see and have walked, and I appreciate some people did, to see that steepness, that a portion of it will be like, there'll be a retaining wall, and that will be in the bottom part of the structure, and the structure will come out taller from there.
Anything further of Ms. Harvey?
I mean, if anyone else has any questions, I'm here to answer.
No, thank you. Your responses have been very helpful, and we appreciate that. So thank you very much for taking the time. All right.
Thank you.
Further questions? Let's see. Oh,
One more. Is the pool on the septic bed? I know it's not our concern, but
Ms. Harvey, can you respond to that?
That is a great question. I have no idea, but I can look into it. We had a pool company install an above ground pool there. Yeah.
Okay. Seems to be okay with it. So, all right. Anything further of Ms. Harvey? Is there anyone online
no,
wishing to? Did you wish to speak further?
Sorry, no, I was just saying I'm good unless there's more questions.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone online wishing to speak in support of this application? In support of the application? Anyone online wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Opposition to the application?
Yes, I would.
Okay, go ahead, sir. Are you? Can we see you, or you're just speak?
Yeah, I'm going to just put
All
the
right.
video on here. Can you see me okay?
And your name, sir?
My name is Peter, and the last name is Loughran, Loughren. Thanks
yeah.
for listening to us today. We have some concerns, the basic ones that you've already mentioned, like sight lines. We've been trying to sell our house for a couple of years. This certainly isn't going to help with that. She hasn't been very helpful. We've been trying to sell the house earlier. This summer, we had an open house, and she had her friends parked down in the middle of the road, which almost caused accidents between her realtors, her pool service guy, and some of the people coming to see the house. And when I asked her to politely remove the vehicles, her exact, and I quote, that is the only spot that her friends can park gracefully. So with that, I understand she's got some parking concerns and wants to put a garage up there. And again, I think this is going to affect her sight lines. I look out over the lake, And now a big chunk of it is going to be, I can see where it's going to be, and it's going to block a big portion of the view of our lake. So I disagree with the sight lines and the canopy issues as well. It's going to block views of our lake. We saw her put the pool on top of her septic bed last summer. I didn't say anything. She clearly doesn't know how septic tanks work or anything like that. But you cannot put a pool on top of the septic bed. It's against, you also need a permit. So I called the city. The clerk said that there was no permit that they could find. And obviously she doesn't know how septic tanks work. So I just wrote a few things real quick because it's going to be relevant to the placement of her garage, which I'll be getting to in a minute. But first thing is oxygen and sunlight, pools, decks, etc. over the septic bed block access to the system while preventing the growth of grass and other beneficial vegetation that reduces the harmful effects of erosion. It also prevents proper evaporation and oxygen that is needed to properly process the bio-sewage waste. And by blocking airflow, makes the ground swampy with contaminated water that proposes serious health risk, and not just to her property, but to nearby properties, and that would be us. So once we see health risks, it's becoming a problem. So the next thing is that weight. You can't drive on a bed. You can't park a vehicle. You can't build decking or other buildings. It leads to dirt compactation. It leads to pipe and tank damage. Above ground pools with thousands of gallons of water weighs more than a giant truck. You'll have to, and once the water goes in, the minute she put the water in there, she immediately compromised her septic tank. All of this information is available online. It's not something I'm making up. You can Google all this yourself. So she's got all this weight on there, all kinds of extensive decking around the pool. She has more decking that has just been planted on there. It looks like about the size of a car. That's right on the middle of her septic bed. I think they also have, looks like stones or something that they're putting on that as well. So basically, once you've compromised your septic system, in order to you have to remove the pool. It has to be dug out in order for that system to work properly again. The other issue we had is what she's been doing, and this is again going to be relatable to the garage in a minute. But back in July, her father was over and he decided to backwash her pool water. All the water came over onto our property. It reached our weeping tiles. It made it to our septic bed. Now, again, if you don't know anything about septic beds, chlorine and salt water flooding and backwashing. Chlorine and salt spills flooding can damage nearby septic beds, not just hers, but nearby beds, killing the beneficial bacteria that is in the septic bed. We just replaced our septic bed last year. I was on a wait list for a year to get it done, and it cost me $25,000. I know exactly what goes on and what is required with a septic bed. I would love a pool and deck too in my backyard, but I'm smart enough to know you can't put one on a septic bed like she has. Now, if you notice, I didn't know it was actually on there. I thought maybe it had a weird shape, and then we got the drawing that her boyfriend sent. And if you look in the very back, you'll see he's drawn the septic. And you'll see that big square. They didn't label it, probably because they didn't want you to see it, but there is a pool. I labeled it for you. That is a pool. It is on her septic bed. So now it's compromised and can cause serious health risks for my family because she wants to have some pool parties once in a while. Like, that's just not fair. If we're not allowed to have pools and decking, how come she is? And the other problem is that when they did any of the dirt that they dug up, they piled all the dirt against our fence that I just repaired like it's a retaining wall. If she wants to build up her elevation, she can't just pile it against my fence. She has to build a retaining wall within there. So she's done damage to that, not to mention her kids. She's hockey pucks and busts the tips off the fence. And while we were eating dinner there the other night, and one came flying across our dining room table outside. So, they had no respect for our property at all. They've done multiple damage since she moved in. Eastlink performed an illegal easement on our property. They did damage to our property. I had to fight with Eastlink to get it removed. Then she hired a guy to come and plow her driveway who dumped all her gravel onto our boulevard and our neighbor's boulevard. And then he ran over the cable box, which damaged our internet service. And my son, who was in virtual school at the time, was missing school because of absentee marks because this lady's contractor ran over the cable box. So it took a year fighting with Eastlink. I finally got her internet repaired for the whole neighborhood, mind you, by the way. And then, so the other concerns we have is how close this is going to be to our garage, as far as there's only a little mound of hill. And so we're worried, like she said, there's going to have to be some kind of retaining wall. I don't care if she's building a garage. I don't care. I don't think it should be that high. There's no other garage in here that is 2 stories except for one near the other side when you first come in, and the second story is actually built underground. He has an elevator inside of it. So I don't know what they're talking about, all these giant garages everywhere in the neighborhood. There isn't. And then also, what else do we have? So once she puts that garage there in the septic tank, because it'll fail probably within the next couple of years, her property is elevated. And then so when it fails, it's going to find its first easy access out, the water. That's exactly what happened on our property. It will blow out the side, and all her sewage waste is going to be coming onto our property. That is going to cause serious health issues here. So this is a major, major issue. Once she puts that garage in there is no way you are going to, on all these staircases or skywalks or whatever else he wants to put in, how are you going to get excavators and bobcats and everything else that's needed to fix this septic tank? Once she puts that garage in there, it's screwed. You're never going to get anybody back there to fix it.
Mr. Logren, you got a couple of minutes left.
Allowed to put a pool on here and compromise our property.
Mr. Logren, you've got a couple of minutes left, so do you want to sum up then, please?
Yeah, that's it, really. I'm just really concerned about the biohazard she's creating and the illegal pool she put on her property. And I mean, all the other damages that she keeps doing is just civil suits. I mean, she hired a tree company and dropped trees and scraped all the stain off the side of my house. I had to go fix it all. Like, I don't even know that she knows half of this stuff is being done, so I'm not even blaming her. It's why I never even actually said anything. I'm trying to be a good neighbor and bite my tongue. But now she's got this pool. The thing's going to fail. It's not a matter of if it's going to fail, it's when. The people down the road park school buses on, and their tank failed last year and had to get it removed, their bed. So anyway, I'm very concerned about my family's health because she wants to have some pool parties. So what I've done is I went ahead, because I know you guys, you're saying that this pool on the septic isn't your department, but I've already made a complaint and filled out that form for inspector, hopefully to come and inspect her property, because you can't put a pool on there. Plain and simple. Yep. And when she puts that garage in, you're not going to be able to fix the problem.
All right. Thank you for that, sir. Ms. Harvey, do you have any comments with respect to Mr. Logren's comments?
Yes, I do. I appreciate hearing from you, Peter, and I appreciate hearing these concerns. I think it's important for everybody today to understand that I use third parties for all of my building.
That's not my problem, though.
Please don't interrupt Mr. Logren. Mr. Logren, please do not interrupt. Go ahead, Ms. Harvey.
And also, my septic is a big concern, and it was inspected, and passed. And these are concerns that I take seriously, and I do care a lot about. I want to make sure that we do it properly and correctly. So I do appreciate that none of the things that was shared today I was aware of. So I appreciate hearing from third parties, the planner, that the design of the garage does not exceed, the height of the canopy or impact viewpoints, and it's going to add to the community. It helps with the parking problem. We do have a parking problem on our street. So my goal for my 7-year-old and 9-year-old and myself that live in this house, the 3 of us, is to have safe access into my house and participate in having a good parking experience and to continue moving forward. If things need to change with my pool, I'm open to sorting it out. It's an above ground pool. I'm not here to make problems. I literally just want to come today to get a garage up. I need storage.
Yeah.
That's all for me.
Thank you. Mr. Logren, what I would suggest you do, the planner, Ms. Evans, has addressed your concerns today with the committee. So if you have further concerns, I would suggest that you contact Ms. Evans.
Already. I contacted the city. I filed a formal complaint. And
I'm talking, Mr. Logren.
Oh.
So I would suggest that if you have further concerns, that you contact Ms. Evans. Perhaps she can help you clarify those further. All right. So thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Harvey. All right. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Committee. Ms. Archer?
I have one quick, well, no
Go
quick
ahead.
question, but a question that Mr. Logren raised. With the garage, will there still be access to the backyard if the septic fails?
Ms. Evans, can we?
Through the chair, the garage does comply with the side yard setback, and I believe the dwelling does as well. So in terms of fitting something to get into the backyard, I don't think it would prevent that from happening.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Erickson, go ahead.
Through the chair to the committee, given that the applicant and the neighbor think that the above-ground pool is over the septic bed, which it shouldn't be, would you agree to defer this application?
I'm not so sure that the pool sitting on the septic bed, really, we can connect that to the application for the garage. So I am not going to put that to the committee with respect to a deferral. Mr. Strangway.
I understand where Mr. Erickson's trying to go. In light of a situation like this, is it up to the neighbor to get in touch with the city regarding these concerns, or do we pass along any information as far as these concerns? I fully realize that the pool and the septic should not and will not play a part in our decision about the garage.
Through the chair, thanks for the question. Appreciate it. Have been listening, obviously, to all the discussion, and certainly agree that we need to focus at least the committee's deliberations and ultimate decision making on what was applied for, what's covered by the minor variance application, which of course is the garage. We understand from the comments of the neighbor that there have been some exchanges with the city, although at this time we in the planning division don't know which divisions at the city. Was that through building and septic, which would be the appropriate division, or through, for example, municipal law enforcement?
That's right.
But we have conferred with the those responsible in the building and septic division, and have recommended that this proceed through a review and an enforcement avenue, which is the appropriate means to connect it to. So that is, to answer the member's question, the path that we would recommend and have pursued is by escalating this through building and septic division staff.
Mr. Logren has every right to view, but he's already made his questions or comments made. So I would appreciate it if we can, if Mr. Logren, if you wouldn't cut in. All right. Is there anything further of the planner or Ms. Arvey? All right. Committee, where are we? Do I have a motion? Ms. Richardson?
As recommended by staff.
Do I have a seconder? Ms. Archer? All right. Any further comments or questions on the motion on the floor? And the motion is as printed. All those in favor? And that carries. Ms. Harvey, your application is approved.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Just a question, Ms. Evans. Did you discussed, I'm sure, with Mr. Logren the concerns he had?
We did provide confirmation that the comments were received. They weren't of a question nature that I was able to address any questions, so I felt that the discussion was best left for committee to be involved at the meeting.
All right, I'm just concerned, obviously, that he may have, obviously, if he needs clarification, I've advised him to call you, so, all right. Ms. Richardson.
If I heard correctly, I believe he's already contacted the city with his concerns, and therefore the city will act upon it in due course.
I would assume, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. Ms. Barrett?
Thanks for the follow-up, Mr. Chair, and we can confirm that the plans examiner has connected with us through the course of this meeting and confirms there's an enforcement file on the matter already in place.
I think we fully understand that Mr. Logren has concerns, and that's certainly his right, and if he wishes further clarification, then he's been advised to call the planner, so. All right. Just moving right along here. Someone stole my agenda. What do we got? So there's no deferred applications, and we don't have any consents to deal with. We're under other business. Is anything under other business from staff? Ms. Berry, anything from staff under other business? No? All right. Committee, anything? Yes. Oh, there's our, Ms. Richardson. Go. Okay, Ms. Archer, go ahead. No? Yes.
I found your question very interesting, Mr. Chairman, about the conservation, that they have no concerns with approval, but they need a permit. And I can see that in areas where it's boathouses and so on, right on the waterfront. The one garage we approved was back across the other side. So I just wonder if there's a clarification as to, so often we see this term, but a permit will be required.
Had a question for?
It's a question, why are they asking for a permit when it's across the road? And is this just a long-standing way of doing business? Or is there, what's the particular reason for asking for a permit?
Yeah. Ms. Evans, Ms. Berry, do you wish?
Thank you. Through the chair. So for the first part of the question, when they say they have no concerns with the minor variance, but a permit will be required, a permit is not a requirement only when there are concerns with the minor variance. The review of the minor variance and the requirement for a permit are two different channels through the responsibility of the Conservation Authority. So while they may have no concern with, for example, the height, the increased height of the garage, they have no concern with that minor variance. If that garage is within their regulated area, then they will require a permit, and that's a requirement for someone to get their building permit. In some cases, properties, only the shoreline might be regulated by a conservation authority, but sometimes that regulated area extends that entire property plus the road, plus maybe even the back lots across the road. So it really just depends on where that regulated area lies for a particular property.
Follow up? Are you okay?
That's fine for now, thanks.
Yeah, so is there a need? Then it seems somewhat redundant. If in our information with respect to the application, if they have no concerns with that application, do we need to also include there that there's a permit required when it's not, when it's separate from what we're dealing with? Because it seems rather contradictory. It really does.
Thank you. Yes, there are two, again, different channels that the Conservation Authority is reviewing it, one being under the Planning Act, reviewing the minor variance, the other under the Conservation Authorities Act for requiring the permit. I don't add that a permit is required as a condition because it's already a requirement in order to get the building permit. I'm simply just including it in my presentation for informational purposes, but if you feel like it's redundant for me to include it, I don't necessarily have to, but it's purely to provide information.
All right. Mr. Erickson?
As you say, there's two channels. I think that's their own administrative way of keeping track of what's happening and what has been permitted, and also fundraising for themselves. Really, these charges, as we know, municipal departments and bodies, regulatory bodies, are trying to make themselves be paid for by the applicants. So any dollar that helps, that's what they're looking for. But also to keep track of what has been given approval.
Yeah, I think we'll just let that lay. All right. Anything else under other business? All right, being none. Next meeting is Thursday, November the 23rd at 1 p.m. Motion to adjourn.
Just before, sorry, excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, oh, I didn't
My
see your hand
apologies.
there. Sorry, Ms. Berry.
Not a problem. Just under correspondence, I wonder if we might spend one moment speaking about the recent resignation of one of our members. Yes, please go ahead. Is that okay? So for the information to the committee and to the rest of the community, one of our members, Alex Scar, who participated in the committee work this year, has had a change in responsibilities at her place of employment, a promotion, so we congratulate her in that regard. This does conflict with the committee schedule and the work that she does with us, and her availability and ability to participate to the fullest extent. So we did reluctantly accept her resignation. Of course, we wish her well and thank her very much for her participation as a member on this committee. Of course, decisions that you make ultimately contribute to better development across the city. And so in due course, we will be advertising to fill the vacancy. Mr. Chair, thanks.
Thank you for that, Ms. Berry. All right. Motion to adjourn. Mr. Strangway, and seconded by Ms. Archer. All those in favor? It's been one of those days where every time I see a hand and I don't see a hand, and all right. We'll get through it, and we did. All right. To everyone, well done.